Hi, today I'm going to talk to you about reading with your child. There are many things that you can do to help your child with their reading. In this video, I'm going to show you some ideas of things that you can do before, during, and after reading a book with your child or having them read to you. Reading to your child. When you read with your child, you need to read with expression so that they can see how they should read the story. While you're reading the story, you should talk about the story and make predictions about what you think will happen next. You can make a prediction and your child can make a prediction. That way you can see kind of who's right and who's wrong and see different views of the story. You want to relate the story to real life and finally ask questions to ensure that they understood the story. Remember, your child is never too old or even too young to be read to. So go ahead and grab that book and read to them. The first part is going to be questions to ask your child before, during, and after a story. Before the story, you might want to ask your child, what is the title of the story? Who is the author and what is their role in the story? The author's role is to write the story and have a problem, a solution, a setting, and to get the characters into the story, involved into a situation so that the reader has something to read about. What is the setting? The setting is where does the story take place? Also, who are the characters? You might want your child to pick one of the characters and tell you 3 main things about that character. And before your child finishes reading the story, ask them what they think might happen in the rest of the story. Before reading, do a picture walk. Go through the book and talk about the pictures and discuss what your child thinks might happen in the story based on just the pictures that you see while looking at the pictures. Discuss any words that they see that they might not know and tell them what the words are so that they're not unfamiliar once you start reading the story. Activate their prior knowledge. Talk to them about memories that the pictures make them think about. If it's a picture of a park, ask your child what that triggers. See if they tell you about a time where you took them to the park and you played with them at the park. During reading, point to each word as you read. Give each word a voice. Tricky words. Tricky words are words that your child might not know how to read. Don't just tell your child what the word is. Ask your child to help them figure it out by asking them questions that they will eventually learn to ask themselves when they get to a tricky word while they're reading. Question number 1 that you could ask them is, what sound does the first letter make? See if they can sound out the beginning sound and then continue sounding out the rest of the word from there. Number 2, ask them if they can sound out all of the letters to recognize the word. Number 3, can the picture help you? And number 4, does the word you said make sense when you reread it? After you read the story, work on comprehension. Talk about the story. Ask your child what happened in the beginning, middle, and end of the story. This will guide them in retelling the story. When they are retelling, encourage your child to use the characters' names instead of just he or she. That way they have a deeper understanding of the book and what they read with the characters' names included. While sequencing the events that they're telling you, try to encourage them to use transition words. They could say in the beginning and then tell you what happened, next, tell you what happened, after that, and then at the end. After reading, this one is about word accuracy. Make flashcards for those tricky words that you identified while reading the story. Relate new words to known words. After reading, fluency. Model reading sentences. You read one sentence and then have your child read the sentence back to you afterwards. Increase the sentences if it's too easy for them. Do 2 sentences instead of 1. Read the entire text to your child so that they see how it should be read with fluency and accuracy. And reread familiar texts and stories over and over again to build fluency. Even if they're memorizing them, it's okay because it's just teaching them how to read fluently. After reading, reflection. Ask your child what they feel like was the most important event in the story and why. Making connections. Ask your child what the author is trying to tell them. Ask your child what the story made them think of. There are 3 types of connections that your child can make. The first one is a text-to-self connection. This is when they remember something that happened in their own lives and relate it to the text. The second one, text-to-text connection. What does this remind me of something that I read in another story? And text-to-world connections. What does this remind me of in the real world? So for today, I chose this story. It's a beginning level 1, The Amazing Spider-Man. And before I would read this with my child, I would do a picture walk, like I mentioned. So you just can show them the front of the story, show them the title, that it's called Spider-Man, and that it is written by Thomas Marcy right inside the front cover here. So you could read that to them and ask them what the author's job is. When you open the story, you could do a picture walk. Ask him if he knows who this is. If your kid loves Spider-Man, he's going to know all of these pictures mean. Might ask him, where does he think he is? Where is he going? What kind of cars and buildings? Ask him who he thinks he lives with. Does that look like his mom, his grandma, his aunt? Does he live in a house, an apartment? Ask him where he thinks that Peter, our character, is now. Ask him if he knows what class this might be and then what's happening here with Peter. Ask him if he went home and talked to his family or if he thinks he's just ignoring the fact and talking about something different. Ask him if he knows what's going on in this picture, why he has a costume. Ask him if he knows what he's creating and what he's going to use it for. This is always going to be the most exciting page. What did he finally turn into and what is he going to do? Ask him what he thinks he's doing out here outside. Ask him if he uses the webs for good guys or bad guys or how he catches the criminals. Talk about how he goes to bed just like everybody else, reads the newspaper. And then who is Peter Parker and Spider-Man? So I would go through and I would ask my son all of these stories, all of these questions about this story. And then I would make some flashcards of some words he might not know. So the first word I came across in the book was menace. And I don't think he would have known what a menace is. So I made a flashcard. I would tell him what a menace is and then have it on a card to show him later. The next one was secret. He might not understand what a secret is or how he has to keep a secret. So we could talk about a secret. Science. It was Peter Parker's favorite class. So it might be a word that your child might not know. So you could tell them science class is something you have at school and you learn about interesting things such as weather and animals and bugs. And the last one was costume. He might not understand that Peter Parker puts on a costume to become Spider-Man, and that he could also wear a costume around Halloween time, so you could relate that to their own selves. Afterwards, I would just talk to my child about what he read in the story, have him read back what I read, and go through the story together, and model that fluency and accuracy that I talked about on the cards. And if at any time that you want to have a visual for yourself for this PowerPoint presentation that I created for this video, you can go to this website, this link right here, and it will tell you all of the slides that I use for this, and you can print them out to use at your convenience while you're reading with your child. I hope you enjoyed this, and I hope you love reading with your child at home as much as I do. Thank you.